Hey everyone, it's Graham from Kittl. Today I'm going to be showing you 6 of my favorite Kittl hacks. These are just features or tools or commands that I use on the daily. You may know some of these already. You may not know some of these already. Regardless, at least one of these is probably going to be new to you, and most definitely that one new thing is going to be super helpful. I'm not gonna waste your time. We're gonna go ahead and jump in here. I've gone ahead and I've made a very nice, chic project for you guys to kind of demo all of these hacks, if you will, these features, these awesome things that I have come to know and love about Kittl over the past months. We've definitely taken a long step forward from where we started when I joined. And I'm not sure, well, really none of anything here listed was part of the tool when I joined. So these are all relatively new things that we have added to our tool belt and have implemented for you, the user, and I love them. And I hope that you love them too. And if you don't know about them already, you will now by watching this video, which thanks very much for watching this video, by the way. So let's go ahead and dive in. This first artboard right here is highlighting our new quick export feature, which if you haven't already seen, I did a video of that recently right here. You can go watch that if you will, if you want a little bit more deep dive, which I'm really going to show you all of the same things, maybe just in a quicker pace here. So it used to be if you wanted to download something individually, let's say an element or a picture or text, you know, you'd have to come over here, you'd have to draw an artboard, and then you'd have to maybe take your element and put it over here and then make sure that the artboard is roughly the same size as the element. And then you'd have to go over to download and then select which artboard you're talking about and the file type and the width and all the resolution and everything. It's just very convoluted way to download a single layer. Well, if you find this annoying, as I did and complained about for a long time, Drew as well, we now have what we are calling, what are we calling it? Or at least Drew and I call it the quick export feature. So you no longer have to draw artboards and place your whatever in question on that artboard to download something. Now you can just simply click, and you're gonna see this little icon and your little hotbar that pops up that says download selection, and you're gonna click that, and then it's gonna give you 2 very simple options. You've got your format and your size, right? So PNG, JPEG, SVG, PDF. We've got to use common sense here. If it's an image, you're probably not gonna download it as an SVG because it's already pixels. So I would steer clear from doing that. But this size function is very, very helpful. So you have the option to download this at 1 times size, 2 times, or 3 times. 1 times is just going to be whatever the size of the image is on your artboard in relation to the size of the artboard. And the way that you can know that, and I guess this might be tip number 7 or the hidden tip of this video, is that if you click on an element over in the right hand panel right here, you can see the size of the object. And obviously, like I said before, that is going to be dependent on the size of the artboard. So if this artboard that is roughly 2000 by 1000 pixels was 10,000 by 20,000 pixels, this picture right here that I have selected would be a lot larger in relation to what we have going on here, which is pretty small. This is probably a hot take, but I'm going to take an educated guess that you don't want to download a photo at 384 by 576 pixels. So what you can do is, you know, one of 2 things. You can either just download selection and 2 times or 3 times size that up. Or if you're like, I don't want to mess with trying to figure out how to do the math, boop, take it over here and size it up. And then you have your new pixel size and then download it there. And this also works with anything AI generated that you might have done. This is an AI generated image that I've done here, and I can still hit the same thing, download. I can change my format to PNG, JPEG, or PDF. Cool, on to SVG elements, which we have lots of in Kittl, and you probably worked with SVG elements a lot. These are elements that are scalable without pixel loss, and you can change the color of them, so they're pretty easy to identify. You can download these as well. So if I select this Y2K star element right here, I can hit the download selection button, and I'm going to make sure that my format says SVG before I download this. This is my recommendation to you. I wouldn't recommend downloading an SVG element as a PNG or a JPEG unless what you're downloading it for and uploading it to does not support SVG. For example, Squarespace header logo for some reason doesn't support SVG. You have to do like CSS coding to make sure the header, icon, logo, whatever you choose for your Squarespace website header is an SVG. and it's really backwards and annoying. So you could, if you have a logo that you've made, you can download that as a high resolution PNG and use it for that. But if what you are going to use this download selection for supports SVG, that's my recommendation. Size, it's going to omit this category. Right off the bat, don't be disgruntled when this is grayed out and you can't click it. Size does not matter when you're... Size doesn't matter when you're talking about SVG, okay? So SVG elements, like I said, scalable without pixel loss. You can blow them up, you can shrink them down. It does not matter. So don't worry about the size category being grayed out. There's not an issue with Kittl. I would just hit SVG, download, and then you've got your element there. This also works with text, which is super cool. So I've got this text box here. I could do any font, any amount of text, any whatever you would normally do as a design that you would have went and downloaded. You can do this too. Right here, download selection, same thing. I would do SVG. Same rules as the other SVG elements. If you're gonna upload it for something that doesn't support SVG, go ahead. Use your JPEG, use your PNG, have a field day. Now, I will say the text is no longer going to be editable after you download the SVG. This is not a Kittl unique thing, so it's not time to crap on Kittl for this. We're actually saving you a massive headache by going ahead and converting this to outlines for you, which is what any well-abiding program would do. So when you download this text box, it is essentially going to become a vector element of outlines. It is no longer going to be an editable font. So it's great that you can have your Kittl project and come back to it, update the text, and download your SVG element and use it for whatever and what for. Just as a disclaimer so that we can avoid the how do I edit my text after I've downloaded. You can't do it. We would rather you not do that, and you would probably rather not do that too, because it presents a lot of issues for you when you're trying to download things and the text is not converted to outlines. A very recent practical example is my wife and I designed our wedding invitations and I sent them off to the printer, and one of the text boxes that I had exported to a PDF was not converted to outlines before I exported it, and we literally got the invitations back and a whole text box was missing. We're skipping that step for you. We're making sure that you don't have any issues, and we're making it as simple to use as possible. So when it comes to grouped versus ungrouped elements, this is probably a question that you had. What happens if I want to download multiple things? Yes, you can do that, right? So if I want to download these things, let's say I want to download this star, this checker pattern, and my text, I can make 3 of these selections, just holding the shift key and select all 3 of them. And I go to download and then I pick my format. This is SVG, so I'm not worried about size there, and download. And since they're ungrouped, right, I have not hit Command G on these elements, and if I click them, they're individual. It's going to download in a zip file as 3 individual files. And then you can open up that zip file and boom, there's your 3 SVG files right there. There's a very easy way to download it as one piece. So say I like this little composition that I've made with this checker pattern and these 3 stars. I can select all of them, 2, 3, 4, Command G, right? So now when I select them, they're all grouped together. Now, if I download this selection, it is going to download as one piece. So that's the rule. Ungrouped is multiple files, grouped is one file. So that's a very simple, clean-cut way for you to remember that. Okay, awesome. Now for the second one, I've got 2 little tools here that you can use. One of them you probably know more about than the other, but the lesser known one now, it's a little bit of an Easter egg. If I have something selected and I hold my option key and hover over another object, it shows me the distance in pixels from that object. So I've got a little composition here and I can see that this is 531.26 on the right side and 467.48 on the left side. So while this optically looks pretty center, it's actually not. And the easy way to know that is boop, I can see that. And then if I want that to be center, I could just select all 3 of these, and then up in my alignment tool options right here, I have this one that says tidy right here on the end, and boom, that's gonna knock that over. And then I can change my composition over there. So that's just a neat little feature. It can get pretty granular. You might not have a use for this. I have had a couple use cases for this when I'm trying to know how many pixels something is away from something else, or how many inches away something is from something else. So if your project is set into inches, it's going to show you in inches how far away. So that's probably the more practical application of this, right? If you're doing like some Cricut stuff or you're printing anything to be cut and you want to know, man, this thing is spaced out 4 inches from the bottom of this to the top of that text box. Here's your winner right here. So you can just hold the Option key and hover over whatever that shape is, and boom, it tells you exactly how many inches away that is. So it's pretty helpful. Cool. This isn't necessarily a feature per se, but it's just something that I want to make sure that you can do. This is a little pit stop on the way through our feature tour. You can name your artboards and you can name your project, and you probably should. I often don't, and I kick myself for it, right? So I've got, this is named Quick Export Distance Tool Shape Builder. Oops, I didn't name this one. All you have to do is go right here, double click, and you can name your artboard right there. So a little bit of a lesser known non-feature, but something that's really nice if you want to name it. And then the nice thing about this is when you go to download that artboard, the file is the name of the artboard. So no more artboard 1, artboard 2, artboard 48, copy 2, 4, 7, 5, whatever, you know. So you can actually have the files downloaded as whatever the name of the artboard is, and that'll save you some time. You can also name your project, by the way, and like I said, you probably should. So I could say this is Kittl Hacks, and boom, my project is named, and now it's probably a lot easier to find if you're somebody like me, that you go to your My Projects panel and it says Untitled Project 1, 2, 8, copy 4, 7, 20, 24/7, you know, so that'll make it way easier for you to find and be organized. And it's not a time saver one time, but it's a time saver when you have 600 projects, right? And you could probably search for it and it would be a lot easier to find. Awesome. Shape Builder. This is also long awaited and also needs its own video because it's a massive tool, right? So basically, historically in Kittl, to put shapes into your project, you'd have to go into the elements, and then you'd have your shapes category and you'd click through here and you'd click on one and you'd manipulate it and try to make it a little bit closer to what you're actually going for. Now we actually have up here in the top left, we have shape tools, right? And so the ones that have hotkeys are rectangle and ellipses, circles or ovals, whatever, is R and O. I'm not super apt to a bunch of hotkeys. I'm okay with clicking on stuff. So if I want to draw a rectangle, I have my tool selected. I can see that this is filled in gray right there. And so I can do two things. I can click and it's going to add a rectangle, or I can drag and it is going to draw a rectangle how I drug it onto the artboard. And then you have your classic options over here on the right to manipulate that shape right here. You have width, height, and a new one is corner radius, right? So I can change the corner radius of these shapes. Another cool thing is so that your computer doesn't get really bogged down as well as your eyes, it won't show the corner radius option until you zoom into a certain amount. So that's just super intentional, and you can come in here and change the corner radius, and you can actually choose an option to scale the corners or not scale the corners. Like I said, this needs its own video and we can do a deep dive into this. So scaled corners means I'm going to scale this up and it's going to apply that same, not radius, but curve, because radius is dependent upon the size of the object. So it's going to keep the same curve when I scale that. This was actually a feature that was added because I complained that when I clicked something and I scaled it up, it would keep the radius, and so it wouldn't have the same curve. It was almost like it became a different shape. So what I asked for was an option to scale the corners, and so now if I scale this up, it keeps the same curve along with the radius. Cool, so that's rectangles or squares. We also have ellipses in here that we can drag and do cool things with. If you hold the shift key, it is going to drag a perfect circle onto the screen, just like the rectangles. It's going to draw a perfect square. Now over on the right, ellipses, they don't have anchor points and they don't have corner radiuses because they are circles and they are curved. So you're just going to have your standard width and height tools there to see how tall or wide or what size these shapes are. Cool, we can get rid of those. On to polygon. So I can click to add, or I can draw a shape on there, and it's going to start with a basic triangle, and I can hold shift as well to draw. And this is really cool and really groundbreaking for us at Kittl. So you're going to have options here, same thing with scaled corners, but you're also going to have a points option right here. So this polygon, I can choose how many points it has, and I can also choose the corner radius. I can change the radius for it to be curved, and then I can add points to make this a completely unique shape. And I can also click on individual corners and scale them alone, right? So if I just click on this and start scaling, it's going to scale all of them, but I can just single click on any one of them or shift click to select multiple, and it's going to scale those all at the same time. Again, that's a lot of information at once. I know. I'll do a deep dive on this feature, so make sure you subscribe so you don't miss it, so you can keep up to date on how to use all these features. And the last classic shape is going to be stars. Stars are polygons, but they're complex polygons, so we saw it fit to make it its own thing, and it's something that's very popular, right? Right here, we have the radius option, the same for stars, and you can see that over here. And we also have points here. So you can add as many points as you like, and you can make them whatever radius you would like to make completely unique shapes. On to the last one, and my favorite, and one that you probably already know, which is why I saved it for last, is just use your alignment tools, right? It is nice that we have like the little tiny guides that kind of pop up and pop into place when you drag stuff, so you see the little dotted lines showing me where I'm at. It's really nice. But use your alignment tools, right? So if I want to align all of these and I want to space them out, right, I'm going to use my tidy tool. And then if I want to make sure that they're all in line horizontally, I can either do middle alignment, or since I want it to be a distance from this, I can do top alignment, and it's going to fix that for me. So now what I can do is I can select these two, and it's going to align that to the left. It's going to make sure that these are aligned to the right. And now I can tidy these up, right? So now I've gone from a very chaotic assortment of squares that are not aligned to these perfectly spaced out squares. That tidy tool is exceptionally helpful. I use it all the time. And so the other thing that's helpful to know is alignment also works on grouped objects, right? Let's say this whole thing was over here, and these are not grouped together, they're individually selected, but I want to align this whole thing to the center of the artboard. All I have to do, and I do this all the time, and you should too, select all of your elements, Command G, align to the center, and then if you know that you're going to want to work on them individually again, just go ahead and hit Command G again, right? Command G to group, align, Command G to ungroup, and now you can work on your individual pieces. You can change the color, the corner radius, whatever you want to do, but it is all centered there for you. Cool. Now, this is long awaited, and I'm going to make a feature video on this entirely, and we're going to do a real deep dive and go through all the use cases of this. We now have a color palette generator. Super dope. Our friend Oleg on the product team built this super quick, shipped it, and we were like, oh my God, that's amazing, right? We had been asking for it, and one day he was just like, here you go. Cool. So what I can do is I can generate a color palette from pretty much any selection, right? So I can select on an SVG element that has colors right here, browse color palettes. And so what I can do is I have this option right here, my palettes, that I can generate palette from selection. So if I click this, it is going to generate a color palette for me based on the selection. So it's going to pull all those colors and it's going to put them into a color palette so that I can select other things and make them that same color. Another really cool thing is you can select photos and generate color palettes based on photos. So if you have a very distinct photography style that you're going for, or you have a photo that you're like, I really like the colors of that photo, but I don't know how to pick them out and don't know how to apply them to my designs, and I really want everything to look cohesive, so I can select this photo right here. Boom, we have a palette generator option. And so that's gonna be saved right there. Now I can select different things and change them to my brand palette. Obviously, that's very deep and moody because of that photo is those deep and moody colors. So if that's what you're going for, this is perfect for you, right? So if I had a bright colors with bright blues and bright reds and yellows and whatnot, it would pull a vast array of different colors from that and generate a palette for you. So you can click on your elements and then everything can be cohesive and you don't have to waste time changing individual colors. Yay, another win for Kittl. Let's go. So those are my Kittl hacks and little features for you. Like I said, the more in-depth features, the palette generator and the shape builder, those will have their own video. Subscribe so you don't miss it. If you're one that likes to learn and take a deep dive into stuff, do me a favor, like this video, and while you're down there liking this video, drop a comment and tell me which of these 6 features is the most helpful for you. It doesn't have to be a new one. You could already know about all 6 of these. Just tell tell us which one you use the most. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, but you've watched this entire video, there's like a mental disconnect there. We have to be subscribed to the channel so that we can stay up to date on all the Kittl stuff, the Kittl hacks, the Kittl news, the Kittl goodness, right? It's Kittl all the way. It's almost Kittl 2025. So don't let your 2024 year go by without having subscribed to the Kittl channel. Well, that's all I got for you. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.